Welcome to the Hibob Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve. This map is of the Salish Sea and its surrounding lands. Our people have lived in this region on land and water for thousands of years, since time immemorial. We had a sophisticated trade system, and we would travel seasonally to hunt, fish, and gather our food. Each dot represents a village. We would trade with neighboring tribes in all directions. Our society looked to our elders, who carried the stories of our ancestors. They kept our traditions alive by teaching and showing by example the appropriate way to live, treating all living things with respect, and only taking what we need. We belong here rather than here belonging to us. Our ancient traditions included being friendly to strangers. So when Captain Vancouver arrived on our shores in 1792, we offered food to his two-ship crew, and we accepted his gifts of metal trinkets and molasses in return. He and his crew misunderstood or made wrong assumptions about how we lived during the time of their visit. They met with many different bands of natives and mixed our customs together as though we were one nation. They thought we had abandoned our winter homes due to some misfortune, but it was just summertime, and we were traveling our lands and gathering for the coming winter. They were only here for a short time and did not get to know our way of life. But they wrote about us in their ship's logs, and their stories traveled far and wide.
In the morning, I accompanied Captain Vancouver with the launch for further examination of these straits. We stopped to dine at a deserted village on the White Bluff. This must, by the size, have formerly been the habitation of at least 400 people, but was now in perfect ruins and overrun with nettles and some bushes. Nothing but the frames were remaining.
I landed on the point near the ship, where I found a few families of Indians live, in very mean huts or sheds, formed by slender rafters and covered with mats.
The British Library in London holds the log of Lieutenant Peter Puget, but the 29th of May to the 14th of June 1792 is missing. It is believed the log of that week was used in a lawsuit against Captain Vancouver. This was due to the incident of Vancouver's escort ship, the HMS Chatham, getting stuck in the mud in Port Susan and certain crew members being severely punished.
The signal was made for the Chatham to bring up. In a few minutes she was discovered to be aground. They had run upwards of half a mile on this bank in 2 fathoms of water in consequence of the unpardonable negligence of the man at the lead, who'd announced false soundings and for which he was deservedly punished.
Discovery crew member Thomas Pitt, ordered flogged by Captain Vancouver on 3 separate occasions, took revenge by publicly caning Vancouver years later in a London street. Some of Vancouver's logs are held in the Maritime Museum in Victoria, British Columbia, and some in Australia. There are logs from Archibald Menzies and Thomas Manby, as well as others. All mention their visit to Tulalip Bay.
In the forenoon, we both weighed and then anchored near the eastern shore, abreast of a small bay formed between 2 steep sandy bluffs, into which we found some small streams of fresh water empty themselves, which was rather a scarce article hitherto in our explorings. We were joined by several canoes who accompanied us to near the entrance, gazing upon us with the utmost astonishment, by which we were pretty certain that we were the first vessels they ever saw traversing their winding channels.
On Monday the 4th, they were served as good a dinner as we were able to provide them, with double allowance of grog to drink to the King's health, it being the anniversary of His Majesty's birth, on which auspicious day I had long since designed to take formal possession of all the countries we had lately been employed in exploring, in the name of and for His Britannic Majesty.
Here is a compilation of the maps drawn by Vancouver's cartographers. They quite clearly show his anchorage at Tulalip Bay. This map is housed at the Library of Congress and can be accessed online. It is relatively accurate considering the tools of the day. At the UK National Archives, we saw other maps drawn in the 1840s by US cartographers. They show our people here and all over the region, although we are misnamed as Skatchit. Our traditional way of life began to change with each contact from the outside world. After explorers came settlers. As they moved into the area, we had less and less land from which to gather, and misunderstandings became common. It is said that Snoqualmie chief Pat Canham paddled by canoe all the way to San Francisco to see for himself what was coming. What he saw made him realize making war with the newcomers was futile. Native leaders would have to sign a treaty to protect their people. Major change for our people occurred with the signing of the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. We were strongly encouraged to stay on the reservation and farm the land, and discouraged to travel with the seasons to gather our food. But we kept our fishing ways, and gathered where and when we could. Now Tulalip belongs to us, although we still belong to Tulalip, the Salish Sea, and surrounding lands. We are the Coast Salish people. We are Tulalip tribes. You can learn more at the Hebob Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve.